Music therapy. Now, what does that really mean? You've all heard me talk about how next year I'm going off to college to study music therapy, but how many of us really have heard that word outside of our conversations? Music therapy uses music to connect to people's brains through different means than words. Music brings out different kinds of emotions without using any kind of words at all. Music has been defined as organized sound by modernist composer Edgar Verse. With that being said, music can be organized in an infinite number of ways, with 7 different notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, arranged in numerous different rhythms. Not 2 pieces of music will ever be the same. Today's music and composers have begun to stretch the limits of their musical boundaries, creating a new renaissance of sound and unconventional instruments, along with new evolution of music. A new form of musical study has evolved, music therapy. This development of music has surprised many artists, as the aesthetic art form has become the focus of many brain scientists over the last few years. Organized sound is what we call music that is made up of different elements that create an abstract art form. The basic elements of sound are loudness, pitch, contour, tempo, timbre, spatial location, and reverberation. Of these elements, the most important are pitch, rhythm, and tempo. Each of these musical elements are perceived consciously and simultaneously for us to be able to enjoy a complex piece of orchestrated music. Elements like pitch are crucial to understanding a piece of music. Pitch is the frequency of a particular tone and its relative position on the musical scale. More simply, pitch is the specific note we are hearing. Different notes can evoke different reactions to the audience. When a clarinetist plays a high shrill note, it immediately captures the audience's attention. While a tuba plays a low note, the audience may have to lean in to listen to it. Pitch and rhythm have an interesting relationship, where the pitches and the notes are separated by silence to create different note lengths, patterns, and rhythms. When listening to a piece of music, time becomes audible and begins to exist in different patterns. Different time patterns are what musicians refer to as rhythm. In a heavily orchestrated piece of music, you'll hear multiple different rhythms. These different rhythms layer over each other to make a more complex relationship with one another as being part of the melody, harmony, or bass line. This is where the piece of music becomes a conversation between 2 instruments or more. Our brains are constantly analyzing what we hear all the time, whether it be a train car or the little chatter in the classroom behind us, but music connects to us in a different way. Music is one of the most meaningful and strongest languages that is found all across cultures. Where words fail, music speaks. In fact, the building blocks of language, grammar, and syntax are the same in rhythm. Although instrumental music does not use language in the traditional sense, with the sense of words with a list of definitions that we are taught in grade school, musical phrasing and guidelines create a more abstract form of communication. The different speeches of music, like pitch and rhythm, are not languages on their own. It is what our human brains do to them to allow us to communicate this way. The human brain lights up with activities while musicians play. This engagement of the entire brain, both left and right hemisphere, uses some of the same networking used for understanding language and grammar. Communication is defined as the process involving the exchange of meaningful information between 2 or more people. Not once in that definition does it require the use of words or definitions. The ability to understand the musical language develops at the same time children learn English. Even other cultures with their different languages and styles of music, children develop their own sense of inner grammar of what they deem acceptable and pleasing. This means that all children all over the world can understand the concept of music and differentiate between grammatically correct music and grammatically incorrect music. Musical unpleasantness or dissonance can be understood as a dark, scary moment in a piece of music, while a perfect major consonant chord is pleasing to the ear and creates a sense of happiness. Along with the ability to understand musical rules and correctness, we can all understand the emotional components that musicians and composers are expressing in their works. Music gets its power from the performer, not the composer. But it's not what the listener's brain does to it While listening to the music, every neural network in your brain is being used. This includes the emotional centers of the brain. Have you ever been moved to tears by a piece of music? This can happen in a multitude of different ways. Research in the past decade has shown how a dose of musical medicine can ease pain, reduce anxiety, and even protect the heart. When you're moved to tears by listening to music, it's the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain responsible for feelings like sadness and happiness, that is responsible for these tears. Some people may say that our brain makes emotional connections is still a mystery, but the secret to these emotional connections lies in the memory center of the brain. So this is musical therapy, the relationship between music, performance, and the brain. And it can be even more powerful than language therapy or psychodynamic therapy because music connects to people in a way that words can't.